war-weary, facing an existential crisis, paranoid about Russian drones, and abandoned by America to fight alone in a way, NATO seems to be losing its grip on reality, blaming just about everyone but itself for the war in Ukraine. Just have a look at what the NATO chief has said. He is making statements that have no basis in reality. He has claimed that Delhi is on the phone with Putin in Moscow, using that to justify Trump's tariffs on India. In fact, he said Trump's tariffs were having a big impact on Moscow. To quote him here, this means Delhi is on the phone with Vladimir Putin asking, I support you, but what's your strategy? I've just been hit by 50% tariffs from the United States, quote unquote. Now, the question is, are those claims factual? Not one bit. But that did not stop the NATO chief from saying that. And that just tells you in a way how desperate NATO really is today. Anything, it seems, to shift the blame. But today, India has hit back, dismissing the NATO chief's remarks. New Delhi said, I'm quoting here, the NATO chief's statement is factually incorrect and entirely baseless. We expect the leadership of an important institution like NATO to exercise greater responsibility and accuracy in public statements, quote unquote. New Delhi has rejected the remarks made where the NATO chief claimed that Trump's tariffs on India for purchasing Russian oil were pressuring Prime Minister Modi to seek clarity from Putin regarding his Ukraine strategy. The NATO chief made those comments during an interview with CNN on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in New York. Now, here's the full story. Last month, Trump imposed a 25% reciprocal tariff on Indian goods and an additional 25% penalty for India's purchase of Russian oil. The US president has accused New Delhi of fueling Moscow's war just by buying its oil. However, India has remained steadfast, refusing to yield to external pressure and maintaining its energy independence. And since then, there has been a softening of the stance from America, with both sides making efforts to resolve that stalemate on the trade talks. Nevertheless, the head of the US-led military bloc has made these unwarranted remarks about India, as if the war in Ukraine was somehow India's fault. Now, it's understood that NATO is under tremendous pressure, to say the least. Allies are divided on how to respond to the alleged Russian threat. There are disparities in defense spending. And there is uncertainty regarding the transatlantic commitment and leadership. Then there is the issue of Trump himself. On Wednesday, while speaking at the UN General Assembly, Trump referred to NATO countries as hypocrites for purchasing oil and gas from Moscow, stating that they were funding the war against themselves, quote unquote. He also warned of punitive tariffs. He said, and I'm quoting here, if Russia does not end the war, the US will impose very strict tariffs to end it quickly, but Europe must adopt them as well, quote unquote. Now, with these threats, it's no surprise, really, that the NATO chief, who once called Trump daddy, is now parroting Trump's language, trying to placate him. So the NATO stays in the good books of an unpredictable leader, it seems. And that's all Europe seems to be capable of, in fact, right now. Capitulation, because real options are running out. So the question is, does Europe really have a plan here? Its members need to spend more on defense, take responsibility for their own security, deepen the internal market, boost financial self-sufficiency, bolster defense industries, and at the very least, get allies to agree on something. Only then can the NATO afford to preach to the world. And as for India, when Prime Minister Modi spoke to Putin on 17 September, his 75th birthday, he reiterated India's policy. Full support for a peaceful resolution to the conflict. A policy that remains unchanged, and a truth that will not change, even if the West does not want to hear it.
To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.